It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a very busy and big Tuesday night on Sports Talk. We are up in Greenville. We're at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity event, 9th annual one, put on by Fisher DeBerry. We have got coaches and players from across the state coming to the TD Ameritrade Convention Center here in Greenville to talk football because, of course, the season is right around the corner. Practice begins next week for the guys, and we're all anxious to get it started. From South Carolina, offensive coordinator and receivers coach Brian McClendon is here with Debo Samuel. Will Muschamp was scheduled to be here, had a conflict, and so he has sent in his top lieutenant and top player to visit with us. And from Clemson, Dabo Sweeney will be here with Dexter Lawrence. They are not here yet, but they are scheduled to be here in just a little bit. Phil Kornbluth here in Greenville, Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in Columbia. And we have got a lot to get to. In fact, Coach McClendon is going to make his way over to us here in just a moment. He's finishing up a little gaggle with reporters. But we do have the Gamecock star receiver, preseason All-SEC selection, for not one, not two, but three different positions. Debo Samuel is here, all dressed in black, once again looking very nifty with the wardrobe. Good evening. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Thank you for coming over.
No problem.
How are you enjoying the media rounds after being at SEC Media Day on Thursday? Now you are here getting all this attention. How do you like it?
I just think it's a blessing to be here, to be able to represent my team.
Aren't you glad people haven't forgotten about you?
I don't think they could forget.
This is your area, right? Growing up in the upstate, feels good for you to be back home, sort of?
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Like 20 minutes away.
You know, I remember in high school as a Chapman Panther scoring a bunch of touchdowns in your career, and you have kept that going, of course, at South Carolina. What is it about your knack for getting in the end zone? Is there something that you point to that makes you such a good player at scoring touchdowns?
I mean, being in the position that I am now, I feel like every time I'm touching the ball, I want to get in the end zone. So that's what I train myself to do every day in and day out of practice.
When did you develop that knack as you were coming through your football career?
I mean, when I was in Little League, my stepmom called me Sweet Feet because probably every time I touched the ball in Pee Wee League, my mom was like, he's already in the end zone.
Sweet feet because quick
and wasn't touchable.
So the feet, of course, very important for you. And the feet, one of them, you suffered the injury last year. How are you feeling? How did the rehab go? Where are you compared to where you were that night against Kentucky?
I mean, I feel like I'm back to myself. We've been rehabbing day in and day out, probably 2 to 3 times a day since I got injured.
What kind of rehab did they put you through?
I really can't even explain what kind of rehab, but it's just getting back to myself.
I mean, are you just out doing a lot of running? Do they have you in pools? Are they doing anything electronically attached to your leg? What kind of things are they putting you through?
At first, we started off in the pool, and then we got in this machine called the Ultra G, which I start sprinting at different type of body weight.
So you feel like the leg is all the way back now?
Yes, sir.
No question. I wanted to ask you, too, last year, the college football season opens in Charlotte. You get the opening kickoff. You take it back for a touchdown. Before people have even settled in, you're already in the end zone. What was that like for you to just open up the college football season like that?
I mean, I thought it was great. It was also great for me and also my team because as a kickoff returner, you want to get a team momentum boost for the rest of the game.
For sure. The game must have moved very slowly for you in the 3+ games you played in, considering you scored 6 touchdowns in the first 3 games. Things must have just been moving in slow motion, and you were just sort of dicing through people.
I mean, I think that come with experience and being out there a lot. I mean, the game kind of slow up for you.
Yeah. Coach McClendon's with us now. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Great. We thank you for coming over. Am I right about what I'm saying about Debo? The game really kind of slowed down for him last year?
Yeah, I thought Debo, the one thing that helps with that is preparation. And he does a really good job of that. You know, he takes practice serious. He does a good job of not taking any rep for granted, becoming a student of the game and knowing and understanding what people are going to try to do to try to eliminate him from certain formations and things like that, to kind of give himself some tips. So now he knows he can go out there and know what to expect. And so he can go out there and play fast and just react and not be out there thinking and trying to dissect a bunch of different information that, quite frankly, that bad preparation, you know what I mean, can do to him. So, I think that's been the biggest thing with him, is just he takes during that week really, really serious, and that helps.
So having him back and having him healthy, how does that make play calling more enjoyable?
Sure. Anytime you get a guy that, quite frankly, gives you the chance to score on any part of the field, it helps. It truly, truly helps. And the one thing that it also does is just, it's going to be interesting to see how people try to take him out of the game, just as far as what they might do coverage wise, or they going to put a certain guy that's going to kind of try to track him all game long. So that can kind of help you get tips also. And so, I mean, just anytime you have a dominant player, those are stuff that comes with it. But also it comes with that you might see a brand new defense that you didn't see the week before.
Sure.
So it kind of comes with that stuff too.
Absolutely.
Deebo Samuel is just a tremendous athlete, and people will be following him wherever he goes on the field. Without giving any trade secrets away, how many positions will you have him lined up in this year?
I can say this: it's going to be a lot on him, and he's going to have to learn a lot of different spots. And I think that's what, not just myself, but we have a really good offensive staff. I mean, not just the offensive staff, we have a really good staff over there. And so, and what we got to make sure that we're doing is putting him in the best possible position for him to be successful too. So, I mean, that's what we're going to try to do, but it's going to change from week to week, and it's going to be a lot on him, because good things happen when he gets the ball.
Are we going to see him about that running back?
Oh, there's no telling. There's no telling.
Brian McClendon, Deebo Samuel with us here in Greenville. So, Deebo, do you think there's anybody who can cover you one-on-one? Do your eyes just pop open when you see single coverage?
I mean, I think that's every receiver wish, just to see one-on-one coverage.
Can anybody afford to double team him with the other receivers you've got? I mean, you have to pick your poison, don't you?
That helps. Being out there with other guys that have the potential to make plays too. But it definitely helps.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
How do you feel about the rest of the receiving core? Because now you've got an older guy in Edwards. The two Smiths have a year behind them.
Sure.
Crosby, I think, has got a chance to have a very big year, and you got this guy back.
Sure. Well, it's exciting. To be honest, it's probably it makes practice really, really good, just because guys know and understand that they have to bring it in practice every single day, or the guy who's going to get the opportunity in the games is the guy who take advantage of them, during the week. And so what it's going to understand is now those guys have to go out there on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and on Thursday, and go out there and show that they can get those opportunities, because if they don't, then there's somebody who's just as talented as them that will get the opportunity. So, it definitely makes, and just like anything else, competition makes you be at your best. It really does. So, and right now we have competition at those positions, and so that helps a lot.
Deebo, do you have to have some contact early in practice? Do you want contact to get hit just to get that confidence level back in your body?
Yes, sir. I think it's going to take me to get hit a couple of times to just get back to the normal.
You ready to go across the middle?
Yes, sir. I ain't afraid.
No fear.
No, sir.
Fear no man.
No, sir.
Fear no corner. Fear no safety. You got any prediction for the season?
No, sir.
Pain? Nothing?
Nothing.
No prediction? A lot of touchdowns?
We'll see.
I'm thinking 65, 70 plus catches, and maybe 25 to 30 touchdowns. The NCAA leader last year in touchdowns had 33.
Did he really?
Yeah. You were on your way to break that.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
Hey, thanks for coming over.
No, I'm really, really, really excited about being here. So I appreciate you guys for having us on.
Enjoy the night.
Absolutely.
It'll be a fun night.
Yes,
Thank you. Brian McClendon and Deebo Samuel from USC joining us here on Sports Talk up in Greenville. We've got Coach Brent Thompson from the Citadel coming up next, as we'll find out from him how things are going in the Low Country, if Charleston hasn't floated away with all the high tides and the rain down there. Hopefully you got some practice fields still there when you get back. He'll join us here after the break.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We continue with Sports Talk on a Tuesday night. This is like a Talking Tuesday during the football season because we are here with a lot of coaches at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity put on by Fisher DeBerry. Things will be getting underway inside at 7 o'clock. We've got coaches and players from across the state. Josh Conklin, Clay Hendricks. You heard from Brian McClendon. Buddy Pugh is here. Dabo Sweeney. Fisher DeBerry, of course, will be here. And our next guest, Brent Thompson, head coach of the Citadel, makes another return visit to the South Carolina Coaches for Charity. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Bobby, I'm doing great. It's a fantastic event to be here. We greatly appreciate being invited, and we're excited to be up here in Greenville.
Always a pleasure to have you with us here on Sports Talk. And how do you feel about this particular event, a chance to raise money for a particular charity of your picking, and also having one of your players with you?
We get a great opportunity to, first of all, support Fisher DeBerry, and of course, he lives down by us, comes to practice quite often. His grandson played baseball for us for a year. So we've got a great connection, and I've got a personal connection, being that I've learned the triple option from him back in 2003. So when he asked me to do it, I was absolutely delighted, and it's been a great event for us. The other thing it allows us to do is support our own charity event, and that is our FCS program of FCA, which certainly has benefited our players, has benefited our football program, and certainly it's something that we definitely enjoy supporting.
All right, let's talk about the upcoming season for you. I know you're looking for a rebound campaign this year, and the off-season preparation and conditioning. How do you feel all that went for you?
We're about 7.5 weeks into it. We had a great summer program. We started our spring ball a little bit earlier this year, and I think we've spoken since then. We've got a lot of things that we needed to get accomplished in spring ball accomplished. Some of the things that we lacked last year, and what unfortunately I think happened, and it all falls to me, that is we got a little bit complacent. We had 2 straight years where we were 2015, 2016, we had championship teams, and we thought we could just go out there and do it again the way that we've done the last couple of years. And unfortunately, at the Citadel, there is a method there is a theme, there's an approach that you have to take, and for us, we've got to get back to that approach every single day. And we've got to be a hungry football club come September.
Interesting. Does that include you? Did you become a little complacent as a head coach?
Absolutely. So you start off your career going 10 straight. You go 10 straight wins, and then you take 2 losses there, and then you come out and you get your 3. Start the year off with 3 straight wins, and then a little bit of our reality sunk in. And we knew that those 3 we had to get. They were winnable football games for us at the beginning of last year. I did see some things that I was concerned about last year, but unfortunately, after those, it becomes too late, and we got a little bit too complacent, and you'd already been through camp, and I felt it go a little bit, and then I really set in for us, I think, after that Western Carolina game. Turned the ball over 4 times in the red zone, really collapsed at that game at the end, and then certainly we didn't show up, and we weren't very competitive in the Furman game and then the Clemson game, of course. So we didn't finish the year the way we wanted to. But I think we all recognize that as a program, and we all have worked to fix it. What will be the strength offensively as you work on the quarterback situation? You want to get back to running your style of the option offense, and who do you see as the stalwarts, especially at that quarterback position? What's going to happen there? We've got 2 really solid quarterbacks, and the third one is a bit of a dark horse right now. It was a true freshman last year for us. But we were fortunate enough to have Jordan Black, who played considerably over the last 2 years. He's going to be should be the solid starter for us this year. You may see Brandon Rainey come back from the fullback spot back to quarterback in some certain situations in the upcoming year as well. And then Ryan McCarthy was the dark horse freshman that I was referring to. Had a ho-hum, probably a very average start to spring, and then really exploded onto the scene in the last couple of scrimmages in the spring. So I was excited about that. I think he's got a really good future and potentially a good starting quarterback for us in the future. But the great thing about our offense right now is we're only going to lose. We lost Cam Jackson, who was a terrific A-back for us. And then, of course, we lost Dominique Allen, who won 2 Southern Conference championships. So that'll be 2 pretty significant losses for us. But other than that, we're certainly better off than we were the year before on offense. Defensively, what things have you done in the offseason to improve there? What kind of age are you returning
on defense? Is it more of a veteran group this time around?
We'll be a little bit younger than certainly we are on offense. We graduated about 6 really good football players there that we're going to miss. One being the 2016 Defensive Player of the Year, Kali Williams. But Aaron Spann, who's with me tonight, he's going to take over in the safety spot. Played a lot for us last year as a 3-year starter for us. Will be our team captain. So he's going to hold down that defensive unit. And then we're expecting a lot out of some of our younger linebackers. We graduated Miles Pierce, who was a really good, solid player for us for 3 years. But we've got a young one that we think is really good, is Willie Eubanks. Defensive line is always a concern for us. We graduated a couple of good ones, but we certainly still have probably our best one back, and that's Jalen Williams.
Southern Conference, teams evolve, they rise, they fall, they rise, they fall. For example, we see Furman team on the move now, seem to be getting better. Wofford with their new coach, we'll see what happens there. Other changes around the league. How do you see the SoCon? You open up, of course, with a very big SoCon game up in Spartanburg on September 1st against Wofford. But how do you see the league overall and where you guys likely will fit in?
I think everybody sees us in the middle of the pack, and that's probably about where we are. We've got to have a couple things go right to get up into that upper echelon, because you've got some really good returning teams. Sanford will be good. They're returning Offensive Player of the Year and the quarterback. Got a great defensive line. They've got Western Carolina, who had a great year. They were 7 or 8 wins last year, and they're returning their quarterback. And then you've got, of course, Furman, who I thought was a tremendous football team last year. They were tough. They were physical. They ran the football. They played good, solid defense. They were everything that I thought we needed to be at the Citadel, and just absolute toughness. So I really commend them. So beyond that is it's a little bit of a crapshoot, because you think Mercer's going to come back on the rise a little bit. ETSU should be on the rise. But like you said, it's not the SoCon of the old, where you've got the App State and the Georgia Southern run the conference. There's a lot more competitiveness at the top, which always makes for an interesting season. So we're excited about it. We've got a chance, though.
Yeah. Speaking of somebody who learned the option offense from Fisher to Berry, that'd be Clay Hendricks, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. All those Air Force guys out there are well connected.
Yeah.
And, Fisher's got a long list and a long line of those guys. And being one of him and Paul Johnson being the 2 main veins of this offense, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. Is the offense still healthy? I mean, is it still I don't want to say viable, but you don't see many teams running it. It's getting harder and harder to find football players, I think, who want to just line up and play smash mouth. They want to play throw and catch and dance around and things like that. Does this offense have a long shelf life?
And it does. It does at certain institutions. You've got to fully buy into it. I think there still are the Georgia Southerns of the world where they're going to be fully accepted of this offense. There's the Army and Navy, of course, going out and winning 8 to 10 games a year with this. Air Force still runs a version of it. And up until last year, I think they've had some really successful programs. They're going to the bowl game. So certain programs, I think it fits well with what we've got. We understand who we are. We understand that we've got to be able to run the football and stop the run, and maybe take the air out of the ball a little bit more than we have in order to win football games. If you look back at it, between Charlie Taft, Mike Houston, and myself, we've got a pretty good history of winning football games at the Citadel, and it's really one formula. It's running the football, playing great defense, and running the triple option.
Thanks for coming over. We'll see you in August a couple of times at the golf tournament, and when we come through on our pigskin tour, get more in-depth from you about your camp and preparation for that opener against Wofford. Enjoy tonight, and we'll see you down the road.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Brent Thompson, coach of the Citadel, with us here on Sports Talk. We always appreciate him coming by and visiting with us, and we'll see him again later on in August as we get around the state to visit with the teams, the coaches, and all that kind of stuff. So I've seen Coach Hendricks come through. I've seen Buddy Pugh. Dabo Sweeney has not yet made it, assuming he'll be here before things get underway. The media here that has gathered, the mean, nasty members of the media who want to ask hard questions, they're drooling here waiting for Dabo to get here, or they're drooling because they haven't been fed and they smell the food that's going to be served in their Hungry Pro. So we'll continue from here in Greenville as well as from Columbia. The preseason All-ACC team came out today. 8 Clemson players are on there. We'll tell you about that. We got a lot of recruiting as the dead period ends today, so guys will be back on the road tomorrow to get to schools one final time. So stay with us here on Sports Talk from Columbia, and here in Greenville, we'll be back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk on a Tuesday night from up here in Greenville at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity. We've already had coaches on with us. I see the Clemson contingent just walking in with Dabo Sweeney and Dexter Lawrence. I think Dabo's going to go talk to the media group, and we'll grab some of that and get it here to you in just a few minutes. But right now we are very proud and happy to be joined by Buddy Pugh of South Carolina State. And for the first time in this setting, Coach Josh Conklin, the new head coach at Wofford. So let's begin with the veteran of the two. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How have you been?
Terrific. How do you feel about being back up here for this event?
It's always good. Great calls and a lot of fun seeing all of the other coaches and everybody else that's here needling and having fun. So it's always good.
Share the war stories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Coach Conklin, your first opportunity here, and what do you want to share with the audience when you get out there for the first time tonight?
Well, it's a great opportunity, like Coach said, and it's a great cause. And, the thing that I'm always most impressed with is just the caliber of coaches that we have in this state. You talk about the high school coaches and then obviously the college coaches. Getting around, being around those guys tonight is always a good time.
No doubt about it, Coach Pugh. You've been around South Carolina a long time, high school and college football, and you probably know better than anybody the quality of coaches at both of those levels here in our state.
You got fantastic coaches in the big schools in our state. And then, I think South Carolina may be one of the strongest states for, what goes on in our championship subdivision. We got 7-8 schools here that are all really, really good. And, we want to try to catch up to those guys because they all, seem to be in the playoffs and doing good and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun to kind of, gather yourself here and, get yourself a little momentum and get into the season, in a good positive way for a great cause.
Absolutely. A lot of causes because everybody's got their own individual charity that you were raising money for. So, Josh, you were just talking to Coach Thompson, your opening opponent with the Citadel. So they're kind of gearing up for you guys and vice versa. Have you started to build the butterflies a little bit for your first game as a head coach, or does that come a little bit later?
I think it's going to come a little bit later. I mean, I think we've done a really good job as a staff, and I've tried to as a head coach is trying to take one day at a time. I know that sounds a little bit cliche-ish, but you just kind of stick to that process. And it was interesting, the first time setting up a fall camp schedule, which I've never done before. You always sit there as an assistant and say, "Why are we doing this?" And I would do it this way, and now you get to make those calls, and it's fun, but it's also has a different dimension to it. So. We're excited, though, and it's a great opportunity to go against Citadel that first game and get going, and there'll be a heck of a test for us.
Buddy, you and Josh have something in common besides being, handsome guys. You both replaced legends. Okay, so what advice, Coach Pugh, would you have for him about stepping into big shoes?
I think you just do it your way. Just work hard, and you've had the reason that you've gotten these positions in place for a long time now. You're going to be who you are. I think you just go out and just do it your way.
Yeah. As you look at your team, you just released over the weekend some additions to your staff. You've changed it over quite a bit, brought in some names that people recognize around the state. How do you feel about the staff going into this year?
I feel good. Excited about Bennett Swaggart running our offense, and he brought along Nashawn Goddard, one of the offensive line legends from around Columbia. Had a chance to work with those guys, I guess, maybe some years back. And then I bring in a guy like a Keith Jones in our defensive secondary. Keith's been in and out of South Carolina and a lot of different places and a lot of other places, Virginia Tech, Navy, those kind of places over the years. So I think he'll do a great job of lending some stability to our defensive side of the ball. We've hired a young up-and-coming defensive coordinator, Coach Jonathan Saxon. I don't know if you remember Coach Thomas Saxon back in the old days, used to be the head football coach at Orangeburg Wilkinson. The kids are coaching now, most of the time. You look around and you say, what the heck's going on here? All of these guys are taking over now. So, we're at that point now. Most of the guys that I know, well, actually, I know most of the granddads of the coaches now. Who are coaching. So, I'm excited about what we've got in place and looking forward to. We've got all our kids in pretty much working out this summer. That's been a lot of fun having them be there and be in good condition and have a chance to get to know each other. So it's been fun watching them get ready for for the season.
For sure.
Coach Pugh, as far as your players are concerned, different voices in the coaching room and in the meeting rooms, you think that's going to add a spark to your team this year?
Well, let's hope so, Tom. I didn't realize you were going to come on. Yeah, who the heck is that? I was
It's
looking
the
around.
voice of God. That's what that is. The voice of
Hey,
God.
Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
We've got some different voices and what have you. And you're exactly right. I think we all become maybe white noise at some point or other when you've been around as long as I have. This is 40-some years for me in the profession and my 16th, 17th year here at South Carolina State. And we're excited about the change and the opportunity for these guys to get in here and put a little twist on things. So I'm looking forward to just kind of getting into preseason camp and kind of see how it goes.
Josh, how different will you guys look from what Terrier fans saw the last 30 years?
There will be some additions for sure. I think offensively and defensively, there's some things that I felt like we needed to add to our package on both sides of the ball. And the first day that I was hired, I sat down with Coach Lang and had an opportunity to visit with him. And, he just shared some ideas that some thoughts and some philosophies where he thought we could take the, offensive package. I think we spent probably 75% of the time in the gun last year. So we'll still have that element of gun, under center, triple option. We would like to throw it at some point in time, 15 to 25 times a game. But I think, Coach Ayers, and he was a mentor to me and a guy that really knew how to win football games. And you win football games by running the football and playing really good defense. So we'll have some different nuances on the defensive side as well, and expand the package and get a little bit more into some personnel-based stuff on third down and do some different coverage stuff that I have wanted to implement. So it'll be good. And our guys picked it up really well in the spring, and we're looking forward to continuing on down that path here in fall camp.
Buddy, I see things all the time, and here it says in my notes when I introduce you guys later on tonight that Buddy Pugh, in his final season at South Carolina State now, and I tell people I'm not so sure about that. So am I in denial or am I just out of the loop? I mean,
you see my AD standing up right over here on the side right here. So maybe you ought to ask him that question. Actually, there's not been a better guy to work for in the time that I've been there. And I'm excited about the season and what could possibly be. We've pretty much said that we'll get through the season and kind of see where we're at. And if things look like something that, that we want to try to replicate, for some years to come, then we might try to see if we could do, some more. But at the same time, if not, then, then I'll be trying to look for something else to do.
Yeah. But you're not saying absolute here.
No,
right
we're
here,
not.
right now.
And, and there is a good possibility that I could be back. But at the same time, we've got to play better than we played last year. I guarantee you, or I don't want to be, around trying to, clog things up for our university.
So success this year would maybe bring you back.
I think success would have a lot to do with it. Nothing's for sure exactly what ingredient to the formula. We'll put it all together. We'll just sit down after we're done and figure out where we're at. And at that point, then we'll make a call.
Gentlemen, we thank you so much. We'll see you later on in August when we come through on our pigskin tour. And be around, of course, during the football season, talking to you quite a bit. We thank you for coming over.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Coach Buddy Pugh, Coach Josh Conklin, and we thank them for joining us here on Sports Talk. We wish them well this upcoming season, and always thank them for joining us here on Sports Talk as we bid adieu to Coach Pugh. Always always one of our favorite people here on Sports Talk. Pro, so he says, not absolute that this is his last year. And I've told people that he's always, when I've asked him that question, he's never said, yeah, I'm done after this year. No, I think he wants to continue if they can be successful.
Yeah, I think a good time to talk to any coach, and especially Coach Pugh, is to talk to him when things are a little bit green. It's fresh now. He's starting a new season. I think a lot of times last year, right at the end of what was a terrible season for South Carolina State standards, he was kind of down, and you could tell. But now he seems like he's got a new lease on life. He's got some new blood in his staff. I think he's ready to go to show what they can do.
Yeah, I want to see what Bennett Swigert can do as a quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator. We'll be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Ain't it the truth? And gotta go for at least another 30 years, if not more, here on Sports Talk. From Greenville and from Columbia, Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes. Will Pelagic is on vacation this week. We're here at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity, recruiting and some other notes coming up in a moment. Dabo Sweeney is still talking with the media, and hopefully, if my assistant here has done a nice job of getting the microphone up there and recording, we'll be able to bring that to you here probably a little bit after 7 o'clock. So stay tuned for that here on Sports Talk. We'll give you recruiting and a couple of other notes here in just a moment. I want to remind you that whether you need a quick getaway or relaxing stay at a beach resort, a vacation loan, and it's not too late, from Founders can make it happen. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/vacation. Not a Founders member? Visit joinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. And Founders is one of the major sponsors of this event with Fisher DeBerry. All right, couple of notes, and then I'll get into recruiting. The All-ACC team announced today, and we've got 8 from Clemson on the squad. On the offense, wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, offensive tackle Mitch Hyatt, who had 130 votes, the most of anybody. How often does an offensive lineman lead the voting? Center Justin Falcinelli. On defense, defensive end Cleveland Farrell, defensive end Austin Bryant, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, and defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. That's got to be a first, pro, where your entire defensive front is the preseason All-ACC team. I've never heard of that before.
Well, they've got – nobody knew at all of them were going to return for another year for that matter. But, yeah, they all have different ingredients they bring to the table. And I quite frankly think that each one makes the other one better.
Linebacker Kendall Joseph is also on the team. The ACC preseason player of the year is Boston College running back A.J. Dillon with 45 votes. Christian Wilkins finished second with 42 votes. A couple of other notes. The Outland Trophy watch list has several Clemson players. Falcinelli, Hyatt, Lawrence, and Wilkins on that list. The Nagurski Trophy watch list from Clemson: Bryant, Farrell, Lawrence, and Wilkins. A little surprised. I really thought that from South Carolina you might see a player or two, maybe Donnell Stanley off the offensive line. I think he's worthy of that kind of consideration because I think he's that kind of player. Also, I would think that from South Carolina you would see
Bailey.
Zach Bailey, exactly, in that situation. I would have thought maybe DJ Wanham coming off of his season would be worthy of consideration, but I think they can add some guys later on in the season as things develop and you see what kind of year guys are having. Former Clemson player Kevin Dodd will be released by the Titans. Second-round draft pick back in 2016, played in 18 games over 2 seasons with the Titans, had 20 tackles and 1 sack in those games that he played in, and had a foot injury through much of his career, much of his time there that hampered him. Did not show up for training camp, the preseason part of it, when he was supposed to report. The camp there begins on Wednesday, so apparently the plan there is to release him. The Fulmer Cup, you can add another resident. Florida signee Justin Watkins in trouble with the law again. After an incident earlier this spring, he was arrested down in Florida. He was booked on Tuesday and remains in custody facing 4 charges, including 2 third-degree felonies. And he's been suspended from all activities, said Coach Dan Mullen. And University of Florida Police Department listed as the agency making the arrest. Previously, he ran afoul of the law in May after allegedly breaking a female's phone and kicking her car. So this guy has got some issues, it sounds like. Former USC basketball coach Darren Horn has been promoted to associate head coach at Texas. So they like what he is doing there on that staff. Now, this came out last night from John Whittle, big Spur. USC pitcher Graham Lawson's going to probably miss the entire 2019 season after recently having Tommy John surgery. 22 games last season, 1-1, 3 saves, 26 strikeouts in 27 1/3 innings. And Charleston Southern basketball product, Kelvin Martin, going to play again in Italy. He has signed a contract with a team in the Italian Series A League. So I guess that's a pretty good league there in Italy as far as Italian basketball goes. All right. Hey, didn't I see something? I didn't pick up the story, Pro. Maybe you saw it. Something with the Panthers, maybe one of their players having an issue. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Why don't you check on that while I do
Okay.
recruiting? I didn't get a chance to look for it because of happenings here, but I think I saw something reported about a player. So now to recruiting. Linebacker Vontae Bentley of Birmingham will be at Clemson for the All-In Cookout on Friday with his family. Clemson's been the clear leader for months. He tells us the chance of a commitment is high. He says Clemson by far has been showing him the most love. He hears a lot from Todd Bates and Brent Venables and Dabo Sweeney. And so he said they are hyped about him. I think he has let them know what his plans are. And a video is being put together to be released on Friday. He said everything goes well and all the things that are expected both ways fall into place. I think you can look for a commitment from him probably on Friday. This will be his third visit to Clemson this year. Running back Michael Dukes of First Baptist is back looking at basketball as part of his college career after writing off basketball back in the spring. He changed his mind, and he is playing AAU ball with the Upward Stars and recently landed his first basketball offer from IUPUI. So he might again consider the football-basketball double, but football is still first on the list. He hears from USC's Bobby Bentley and Pat Washington. He said about every 2 weeks. He was at USC in June to watch camp. He checked out dorms and the academic side on that visit. He also visited East Carolina in June. He said Virginia Tech, Arkansas, Oregon, North Carolina, Georgia State are showing him a lot of interest. He plans to take an official to Virginia Tech, the Notre Dame game, if the Hokies are still strong with him at that point. Offensive lineman Cooper Dawson of Hanahan, recently offered by Georgia State, and Vanderbilt is showing strong enough interest that an offer may be coming. He has a Clemson offer. He's in touch with Robbie Caldwell and Tony Elliott. He'll visit Clemson Friday for the cookout. He's thinking of going to Georgia State Thursday and Vanderbilt on Saturday. He visited Georgia Southern and Central Florida in June. Of course, he tore his ACL at camp at Clemson this summer and missed his senior year. Defensive end Dante Walker, who camped at USC in June, said he's still hearing from USC recruiter Mike Peterson, who likes him as an outside linebacker. He's been strong on USC, but of course, he needed to improve his academics and said he's done that this summer. He just took the ACT for a second time. Said he's also hearing from Tennessee, Georgia, and Tennessee State. He said USC and Tennessee are the two showing him the strongest interest. Of course, tonight, Travon Walker, USC and Clemson target, going to announce his commitment, expected to be Georgia. 2020 linebacker Sergio Allen of Fort Valley, Georgia, plans to be at Clemson on Thursday with his mother. He also likes Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia Tech, among others right now. No specific order. He said he's also planning to visit Alabama Saturday if that can be worked out. USC target defensive lineman Jaquaz Sorrells plans to visit USC tomorrow, the day after the end of the dead period. So that's a good sign for USC. Another USC target, defensive back Jaden Hill, will visit Florida this weekend. Basketball, Blythewood shooting guard Trey Jackson has picked up more offers. Presbyterian and Gardner Webb are the ones most recently offering him. And I see now just coming out that indeed Travon Walker did commit to Georgia just a few minutes ago. All right, top of the hour. When we come back, we'll have those comments for you from Dabo Sweeney, and we'll have time for your calls in the next hour. 800-956-7266 is how you can reach us, and we'll be back.
2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth up in Greenville at the TD Ameritrade Convention Center, I think is the full name of this beautiful facility we are located at tonight for Fisher DeBerry South Carolina Coaches for Charity event. Just a few minutes ago, Dabo Swinney met with a group of reporters, and let's get right to that. Now, everybody's moved inside the banquet hall, so they've gone in to start the program. But let's go to the Dabo Swinney remarks. And very first question that was put to him was about the ladies' clinic, the Christian Wilkins dance. Yes, the very first question that was put to him was about that, the Christian Wilkins dance and all of that, and the fallout from that, if there is any, and the reaction to that, if there is any. So here is Dabo answering the question about that first question. What about that scene with Christian Wilkins?
My reaction is I can't believe I'm at the Coaches for Charity event, and that's the first question I get. But not surprised. I would say that it was an amazing event, unbelievable day. Really appreciate our wives and all the work that they put into. Over 3,000 ladies showed up, and it was an unbelievable day. Raised well over 400,000. We're able to give $350,000 away. It's a shame that's not the story. $250,000 to buy a new mobile mammography bus for St. Francis that'll go in all the lower income areas and give free mammograms, and $100,000 to Coney. And somehow or another, that's not the story. But you know what? That's kind of the world we live in. Even when you do good and you try to do good, you get accused of doing bad, and that's just the way it is. But you do good anyway. So that's my comment on it. It was an amazing day, and it's unfortunate that there was 15 seconds of the whole day that people focus on and really don't really know the context. It was a lot of fun. There was a Dancing with the Tigers segment where they came up with their own skit or whatever. It was really good. Cleveland danced with his mom. Austin did the swag surfing, and we had this shag. I mean, it was a great day, but a lot of fun. And, again, people make their own storylines, and that's the way it is. But, it's an unbelievable event, and I just really appreciate all the people who came out and supported and helped making a difference. And Holly Rowe was amazing, just amazing. Her story, her presentation, and then we had well over 100 ladies that came down on the floor that are currently battling breast cancer, and it was very powerful and uplifting, and hopefully a lot of people walked away from there gaining a lot of courage and strength from the day. So that's what it was all about. And again, the next thing I'd say is I guess it's time for football because this is some very, very slow news that we're talking about that.
Coach, you come to this every year. What's the significance of this particular event? Well,
it's just the same thing. I mean, first of all, I have unbelievable respect for Coach Fisher DeBerry. I mean, he's one of the best ever to coach. I think he always represented the right things in the coaching profession. I think his legacy is he won a bunch of games. He's an unbelievable coach, but that's not his legacy. His legacy is the lives that he impacted through this great game. And, so he's been awesome to the state of South Carolina. And this is something that many years ago he reached out and asked me to support. And so that's why I'm here, to help him make a difference for what he's trying to use his platform for. And, in particular, what he tries to do is send a lot of kids to FCA camp free. And so that's something he's very passionate about. And, I'm honored to be able to be here and help him support that.
Thanks to you for doing charities like this, and using your name and your image and your position to raise money for charities like this, like the ladies the other day. Does it make you feel like?
Well, it's to me, that's a responsibility, I think. I mean, I certainly don't have to. I could just sit at the house. Could have just hung out at the lake all day Saturday. Over there, 6:45 in the morning, there all night. I mean, you don't have to do that. But I think it's a responsibility. To those who've been given much is required, expected, and certainly can't do everything, but we try to really, throughout the year, make a difference for our community. And that's what the All In Foundation is all about. It's using the platform that the good Lord has given me to make a difference in our community. And, one of these days I won't be the coach. I'll be gone. I'll be, in heaven with the good Lord, or I'll be retired, on the lake or whatever. But whenever that time comes, if anything, I hope people will say, you know what, he made a difference. And, he helped the community. He gave back. And that's what the foundation is all about, is giving back to this state, to this community. And we've been able to do that. We raised over $1 million back in April at our big all-in ball event. And it's just, Kath has just been amazing with what she does. And so it's just trying to use our platform in a very positive way, and for people to benefit from that.
That clinic for 10 years, or this was the 10th year. How have you kind of seen it grow, and I guess the difference you guys have made over that time?
Yeah, it's amazing. It was my 10th ladies clinic, and I mean, we might have had 300 or 400 or something the first year, and I mean, have over 3,000 ladies show up to learn some football, which is, they love that, and they're passionate about it. But I mean, I'm from all over. I'm talking about all over the country. We have people from California, Texas, Michigan, Ohio, Florida, everywhere, and it was just amazing. And I took a picture with all 3,000 of them. So that was a full day, and it was great. I enjoyed it. So that part is unbelievable. But to see a bunch of people come together for a common cause, because breast cancer is it affects all of us. It's amazing. I ask everybody, if you're dealing with breast cancer, or you have someone that's close in your circle who is, raise your hand. And almost the entire Little John Coliseum raises their hand. And it's powerful, and to be able to make a difference. We've been funding the mobile mammography bus here at St. Francis for years, and but it stays booked. And they needed another one. And so we're very blessed that we were able to have that type of a turnout and raise that type of money to help Eric Whaley and his whole crew over there, who one person at a time make a difference, because it is a killer. But if it's detected early enough, it can make a difference. Most of y'all know my wife lost her sister. She died very young and had 2 young sons at home, and left a husband. And, we've lived through that. We've experienced it. So when I got this job, that was something that we were passionate about, was, how can we make a difference? Kath is a breast cancer gene carrier. And through her sister's tragedy and the research that has come about through the years, we feel like her life's been extended. And so it's just trying to make a difference. Same thing with the Family Effect Foundation. That's something that I've been passionate about. I've had a lot of addiction in my family, and so we tried to make a difference there. Call Me Mr. Program. That's education has been key for me. I'm big on that. The Clemson Life Program, special needs kids. So those are things that we are passionate about, and we try to make a difference with every year. Not to mention the overall grant program, but our specific events of the All-In Ball and the Ladies Clinic and Fantasy Camp. Those have been great fundraisers for us. Not to mention people just donate to it all year, all the time, and because they know that the money's gonna go to make a difference in this community. And so I'm excited every November to do the grant program, and I think we gave about $400-something thousand away at our grant program luncheon last year to all types of different events.
There you hear it, Dabo Sweeney from here in Greenville. Back in a moment.
Now,
Well, it's pretty obvious Dabo was not going to say a whole bunch about what happened at the ladies' clinic, that he was going to keep it on the high road, and it was going to be difficult for anybody to ask a follow-up question since it was the lead question, and he was already a little ticked off about the fact that that was the lead question and not the fact that yeah, but I mean, I think he wanted to kind of nip it in the bud from the standpoint of putting the media on its heels by saying, I can't believe the first question you're asking me is about that. But that puts everybody on their heels. Maybe if they had waited a couple of questions into it and say, after he talked about this function and everything else, and you say, okay, what about this thing with Christian Wilkins? What's your take on it? Is it something that's okay with you? And he could have said, well, blah, 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 blah. But he went ahead and said, blah, 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 blah anyway. and left it at that. So, I mean, look, you can't deny that what they did from an organization standpoint with their clinic and the money they raise and where the money goes, that's all great. And that should be the story. It's nobody's fault in the media that the story became something else. It didn't have to become that, but apparently with the approval of Clemson and everybody around there, it became that story. So don't be blaming the media and the fans who are reacting to it for reacting to it because you let it happen.
Well, the follow-up question is this. Dabo, you raised a great money. I understand what you did. So you're going to do this again next year, aren't you? If you'd asked him that question, then you'd have gotten the answer.
You're going to do what? Allow the dance next year?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If he's bragging about how much they got next year, that means you're going to do it next year, right?
Oh yeah, they do it every year. I think.
No, but I'm saying with the dance and everything.
Yeah. Well, the dance has been. I mean, look, for years they've had the players come out and do things from a body showing standpoint. Showing off the muscles, or doing some weightlifting, or doing calisthenics, whatever it is. Doing the what you call the beefcake thing. I'm not exactly sure about all that, but yeah, guys, the beefcake thing that the women go crazy for. I would have to admit, full disclosure, I was once part of the beefcake crowd, so I kind of know where that goes. But
okay, well that beef must not have been grade A.
Let's see, what's the name of that male group that goes around and does stripper shows? Not the Clydesdales. What's it called? What's that thing called? Chippendales. That's it. Yeah, not Clydesdales, the Chippendales. I was part of the Clydesdales, not the Chippendales. All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. Let's go to Glenn in North Charleston here on Sports Talk tonight. Glenn, welcome in. How are you?
How are y'all?
We're great.
I didn't know horses did stripping.
Well, I guess they can be stripped of their fur or stripped of their, stripped of their beef, stripped of their weight. What you got for us, Glenn?
Well, I was thinking, what? But anyway, I'm glad to see Debo back in health. And Corn, we was in that Clemson game last year pretty well, and that was without Debo. If he stays healthy, he can add some touchdowns on that score last year. We could have been a lot closer or even upset. What's going to happen now if Debo stays healthy and Bentley gets more experience as quarterback and he's successful in each game, and then we come up in November and we get 10 wins, get the SEC, is my optimism, hope. And then when we get Clemson, we could possibly upset. But I forget, do we go to them or they come to us? Because I thought last year we went to their home field.
Nope, South Carolina goes to Clemson this year.
Oh, okay, then okay. But what would be the Vegas point spread with Debo back, good and strong, and he still has that same talent and no fear of going down that field and scoring those touchdowns like you said in that interview? And that could add a secret weapon that Clemson might be watchful of.
Well, he won't be a secret. He's not going to be a secret from day one. He's the most hyped Gamecock going into the season, and justifiably so. And, I mean, he does give South Carolina Pro a much better chance on offense to be very, very good. As you asked the question about how many different ways you're going to get the football to him, I think they'll come up with a lot of creative ways to get the ball in his hands. Still, South Carolina right now is a double-digit underdog to Georgia on the second game of the season. By the time they get to November, you got to see the conditions of the two teams. What kind of shape are they in physically? How did the seasons go for each? And then you'll be able to determine, look, I think if things go well for South Carolina and they're sitting on about 9 wins going into the Clemson game, if that indeed is the case and everybody's healthy and playing at the level they can play at, and if Clemson is undefeated, as they should be, and healthy and playing at the level they're capable of playing at, I still think the odds makers going up there will probably make Clemson about a 10 to 12-point favorite.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be more than 2 touchdowns, quite frankly. I see a 15 to 18-point favorite. The key point is that South Carolina fans have to realize that what Muschamp has done, and he's not going to say it because he wants his team to be a championship team, has been nothing short, in my mind, than miraculous. If we saw this team decimated in recruiting and whatever, down to 3 wins, they didn't have a quarterback they could rely on, and in less than 2 years, you got 9 wins. I mean, come on. You need to be satisfied with those small steps as you get to, instead of chasing windmills, like thinking about what can we do with Clemson and Georgia. Look at what your own program is doing. It's exponentially growing each step that Muschamp has been here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to tip your cap to what he has done so far. And that's why I think Muschamp, in his comments about his team this season, feels like he's got a chance. He's got a chance to win the East. He's got a chance to beat Clemson. He's got a chance to do some great things. I think he feels like he's got a fully loaded gun if he can keep everybody healthy. Now, there are parts of the team where people have got to step up, give them some help in depth, like along the defensive line. I'm still, of course, going to be suspect of that until we see what these guys can do, though I think the ends could be very good. I think linebackers will be fine, and I really think the secondary is going to be fine. I think the 2 transfers are going to help out immensely. I think the kicking game, though the place kickers have been a little bit scary, they do have the transfer, though I don't know how good he is. We'll have to wait and see. The punting game should be excellent, and the return game should be excellent. So most parts of that team look loaded to me at this particular point in time. That's why I think you can talk with confidence that South Carolina could be sitting on 9 wins in late November going up to Death Valley.
There's no doubt about it. And I think probably if Rico Dowdle, to me, is a versatile running back. And I know they got more than one running back, but when you see him play, he is the guy that you most say, this is a guy that can make an NFL roster, because he already is adept at picking up the blitz. He comes out of the backfield well, and he runs hard. His key point is staying healthy. And they've got what, 4 juniors at running back, and that's not counting the freshman that in Fenwick is coming in. And we talk about Deebo Samuel. Deebo's most valuable commodity right now may just be the fact that he's Deebo, and everybody else around him, they're going to get less attention. And then that's when you're going to see those other wide receivers shine, because everybody's focused on Deebo.
I don't think as a defensive coordinator you can afford to double team Deebo. I mean, you might have to. I don't think you can afford to, because I think South Carolina has too many other good players in the receiving corps that can beat you. And, you end up in some situations where South Carolina is going to have the advantage in those matchups. And you figure that McClendon and Bentley will be able to take advantage of that. So that's why you look for guys like Brian Edwards, Shi Smith, maybe even the freshman Josh Vann coming in and having a big year as well. Okay, we'll be back with more in just a moment.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
And, of course, we're talking a lot of football tonight. We are here at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity. The event is now underway inside the big banquet hall here in Greenville at the TD Ameritrade Convention Center. We'll be going inside after the show and participating in the programming involving all the head coaches and their players who are here. Looking forward to that. But let's talk some NASCAR as we welcome in the president of Darlington for his Tuesday night visit with us here on Sports Talk. It is KT Kerry Tharp. And I tell you what now, 3 out of the last 4 races, pretty dynamic. If you don't like those kind of races and the action there, then you're just not a race fan.
Well, I agree with you, Phil. And certainly last week in the race up at New Hampshire, Kevin Harvick did a little bump and run on Kyle Busch, got him out of the way, went to victory lane. And that's what people want to see. And, we started Chicagoland a couple weeks ago when Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson got into it. But that's kind of racing people. That's what NASCAR was built upon. And so I'm really enjoying what this second half of the season is bringing us so far.
Yeah, and we'll see where this leads between Harvick and Busch. Of course, they're going to be right there all season long in the playoffs, racing for the championship. And you know that Busch has put that in the back of his mind, and he'll save it for the right time. And Harvick's going to be expecting it at some point.
Well, that's no question. And, this week at Pocono might not be the ideal place to try to pay somebody back. But there's other races coming up, short tracks at Bristol here before too long. But, I would say that Kyle Busch won't forget that one anytime soon. And so, hey, you got to be good at your craft. You got to be good at what you do. And Harvick certainly was clever at what he did the other night. But I'd like to see those guys really start, having some rivalries amongst one another. Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick certainly have a history that got into it at Darlington a few years ago. So I'd like to see those two kind of get into a little bit of a rivalry.
Yeah, I think people today who wonder about NASCAR and the personalities, they see these clean-cut kids with the corporate backing and, saying all the manufactured words for them given to them by their PR people and this, that, and the other. Unlike, of course, the era before them when the drivers would say whatever came to their mind and didn't worry about it. And even if it meant settling an issue between haulers, they would take care of that. I'm not sure we're ever going to see that develop again on the NASCAR circuit with the young crowd moving up.
Well, I don't know if we will or not, but I'd like to see a good balance. And certainly there's got to be some of that. Certainly there are sponsors that have to be taken care of because they're the ones that, kind of foot the majority of the bill. But and I'm like you, I'd like to see that rivalry. I'd like to see that emotion that we've seen from time to time. And, Harvick and Kyle Busch certainly are fiery competitors. And it would nothing would delight me more than they get into it at Bristol before they come to Darlington and set up some stage for some really good fireworks.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking as you're talking, and I mean, you think about guys, of course, like Petty and Earnhardt and Neil Bonnet and the Allisons and Cale Yarborough and Lorenzen. I mean, those guys they weren't, shall we say, real cultured people for the most part. And their backgrounds were not of that ilk. And they drove that way. They dealt with the media that way. And they kind of dealt with each other that way.
Well, they did. And you take a guy like Tony Stewart here, just a few years removed from the sport. Tony was kind of like that. Tony would call a spade. And if he didn't like something that you did, he'd get in your face and get aggressive about it. And so, I think that's what the sport was built upon. I'd like to see more of that. I think that there are people in the sport and drivers in the sport that are certainly capable of doing that and having that type of persona. I'd just like to see a little bit more of it shine out.
Talking with Kerry Tharp, KT, president of Darlington. So today we had an announcement by the 43 team regarding their throwback look for your weekend.
Yes, it was exceptional. I was up there. It was at the Hall of Fame. iconic brand, STP, iconic number, the 43, and certainly an iconic team owner, Richard Petty, undoubtedly the most famous driver in the history of the sport. And you know, Bubba Wallace up there driving that 43 car. It's a cool looking race car. It's modeled after the 71 car that Richard drove, the STP car. It's that familiar blue, but it has a lot less markings than you know, some of those other STP cars had. It's more plain blue, and I love the paint scheme that they had out there today. But certainly, you know, it just kind of goes to show that the throwback weekend at Darlington, you know, a big plank for us are the throwback paint schemes, and it was cool to see that one unveiled today. I think there's several more coming out this week.
All right, how's the work coming along at your place?
It's coming along great, Phil. I was out there today. The seats in the upper deck are probably 70 to 75% put in with the new angle and the new pitch. The bleachers are all put in. They've got some cleanup work to do, certainly. But we're inside 40 days. All systems go. They're working 2 shifts a day. It's coming along. It's going to be exceptional when those seats are put in.
Are we on schedule?
We're on schedule, you know, but we don't have a days for vacation. Let's put it that way. These guys can't take any vacation right now. So, yeah, we're on schedule. We'll get it done sometime probably in mid-August, but it's going to be spectacular once it's all said and done.
Promise some pit road tickets to the race if they finish up in advance.
Well, I tell you what, they've done a yeoman's job. They've had a lot of heat they've had to deal with this summer, but, you know, yeah, I was up in those seats the other day, and it's such a better seating experience than what we were accustomed to previously. And, you know, I'd encourage all the fans to get out there and check out the race Labor Day weekend, and, you know, it'll be the best seat in the house.
No question about it. Hey, we thank you very much for being with us. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, Phil. Appreciate it as always.
KT, Kerry Tharp, president of Darlington, with us here on Sports Talk. It's coming at us quickly, Pro, like the big old freight train in the tunnel. Darlington will be here before we know it.
Well, the thing is, they ought to finish on time or before time, because this, shall we call it, unseasonably cool weather around most of the state the last few days. You ought to be able to work double time now.
Yeah, but what about the rain?
You can deal with the rain.
Well, you can't work. I guess those guys maybe could work in the rain. They can't work in a monsoon. They can't work in a complete downpour. But I think things will finish up on time. And, of course, if you're KT, you want to be on time and under budget. I think those are the magical words for them. All right, we thank Kerry Tharp for being with us here tonight on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266 is the number. We've got some time for some calls here the rest of the way. If you want to join in and share a thought about the things you've heard tonight on the program, love to hear from you. Your take on what Dabo Swinney had to say, or any of the other coaches, or anything else on your mind related to the upcoming football season. I should mention, Braves played today down in Miami, a getaway game, as they wrapped up a very quick 2-game set down there. It did not go well for the Bravos. They were taken out by the Marlins in convincing fashion today, 9-3. And so they lose down in Miami. The Braves have not been playing real good baseball here of late, and they lose today big after winning big yesterday. Julio Teheran takes the loss 7-7, career high, allowing 9 runs, 7 earned in 4 1/3 innings. So not a good start for him. Braves committed 3 errors on the day, Pro, so they kind of stuck it up down in Miami today. I guess they wanted to get out of town and get home.
Yeah, well, you know, after they won 12-1 last night, with Freddie Freeman exploding, I think, for a couple of home runs in that game. But the big thing right now for the Braves is they got to find some pitching somewhere, because the Canadian phenom Soroka may be on the shelf, the young starter, for the rest of the season. And I understand that Arodys Vizcaíno, their closer, may still be about 2 or 3 weeks away from throwing in earnest. So they've got to find some pitching.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the number, plus some interesting comments from Coastal coach Joe Moglia coming up in a moment.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
And we're also always checking our poll questions. We've got two out there for you. One on Twitter, Clemson's reaction to questions about the Christian Wilkins video from the Ladies Football Clinic was A, appropriate, or B, a brush-off. 77% of the responders have said a brush-off. 23% have said appropriate. Then our other question on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, how many touchdowns will Deebo Samuel score this season? 35% say 10 to 15. I think that's way too low. 31%, almost 32% say fewer than 10. 19% say 15 to 20. 7% say 25 or more. I could see 25 or more. I really could. I know that would take a great year pro, but as many times they're going to try to get him the football and as effective as Jake Bentley should be and the other offensive players they have to set things up for him, I could see him scoring a bunch of touchdowns.
Well, the key is I don't think anybody thinks that anybody in their right mind is not going to kick the ball to Deebo. But as I said before, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, because I think probably they're going to start off with two kick returners back there and have them crisscross at the last minute to see if the guy's not paying attention and kick it to number one.
You got to find a way to get the ball in his hands as many times as possible. The Big South had its media day function today, and they've got their preseason poll and preseason team out now. And let's see here. Well, I thought I had downloaded that, and now I don't see it. So while I look for it, let's go to this. They had Sunbelt Media Day in New Orleans yesterday, and Joe Moglia, the Coastal Carolina coach, was back after being away, of course, for a season because of health issues. He is now back and healthy and ready to go. And the thing with Coach Moglia, when you have him in a speaking situation, you can have him talk about football, but of course, being who he is, and we're in a building that, he has some association with because he's the chairman of the board of TD Ameritrade and the former CEO. So he tends to get off into political and business issues. And so I thought this part was really interesting that we're going to play for you. It's not about his team per se, and it's not about X's and O's in football per se, but it's about, his philosophy is there are no rules on his team. No rules. He has this principle called BAM, which is be a man, and he expects his players to behave like men and do things that men do in a proper fashion. Thus, there are no rules, just do things that fall under the guideline of be a man. And so in talking with the media yesterday, he talked about world events and how he preaches those to his team and ties that all in to how he expects his players to act like men.
Everybody acts like football is like life. Football is not like life. Football is a game. That's an important game, and we don't win, I'm going to get fired. But it's a game. It's a game. At the end of the day, there are so many things going on in the world. It's not just a matter of politics, but there are so many things going on that I would want my children to know. I want my players to know. And if I feel so strongly about that, why wouldn't I spend real time making sure our guys know that? So, biggest single threat in the globe today is terrorism. We have to live in the greatest country in the world. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people with unlimited funding will not hesitate to give up their lives because they would want to kill us because they think what we do is evil. We don't think that's something that your football players should absolutely know. My guys know what ISIS stands for. I bet you forget student athletes, but 90% of students in the nation don't know what ISIS stands for. You protect ourselves through the military. Average age of our guys 20 years old. There are plenty of people 20 years old putting their lives on the line so we can play football, so we can live in freedom. With those freedoms come responsibility. You go right back to BAM. If that's so critical, you all can only pray that our political and military leaders have the guts to do what they believe is the right thing, even if they're not going to get reelected, even if they're not going to get promoted. Well, what role do we have in that? Oh, we have no say. We do have a say. I almost said something there. We do have a say. We live in a democracy. We got the right to vote. It's not a matter of being political. It's understanding what's going on in the world that matters, that's going to have an impact on your life and your family's life down the road. So it's not, by the way, it's not just about football. It's not just about science class. It's not just about math class. It's not just about a language class. It's about what's going on in the world that's going to have a major impact on you and your family down the road. It's our job, especially with my background, I believe it's our job to be able to make sure our guys understand that. That's why we do that.
Hard to argue with Joe Mowgli, a pro, when he starts to get on a roll about that. The man knows what he's talking about, and I mean that's how he treats things with his team. He said every day during football season they take at least a half hour away from practice, and they go over world events. They talk about things happening in business. They talk about things happening in politics. His full belief is, doing more than just developing the football player. He wants to have a businessman. He wants to form a businessman ready to walk in to a bank job or financial job or whatever the case may be when they come out of his program.
Well, the key point is if you're a well-rounded person, you should be able to stand on the corner and talk maybe to the janitor. And then when the Queen of England walks in, you converse with her also. And that's why people go to college, quite frankly, is you develop into a person that can talk about many things on an intelligent level.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's doing a great job of that, but he's also got to get his football team back up and under him because they really struggled last year, their first year in the Sun Belt. It was not pretty, and they're picked to finish way down this year. They got to get their quarterback situation settled up. That's been a problem for them the last few years. So they've got a lot of work to do, and they're only going to be at 70 scholarships this season as they continue that transition into FBS football. Big South poll I told you about coming out today, and Kennesaw State is picked to win the championship. Monmouth finished second in the poll. Charleston Southern third, Gardner-Webb fourth, Campbell fifth, and Presbyterian College finished sixth in the balloting. As far as players on the all-conference team, on the first team, wide receiver Cameron Brown from Charleston Southern is the only player from the state. On defense, Charleston Southern's Solomon Brown, defensive lineman. Another defensive lineman, Johnny Robinson. Charleston Southern linebacker J.D. Sosby, and Charleston Southern defensive back Shadarius Hopkins, all on the first team. On special teams, Charleston Southern punter Kyle Rayard is on the first team. Also on the first team, punt returner Taz Lindsay. So there you go with the Big South. The preseason offensive player of the year is the quarterback from Kennesaw, Chandler Burks. On defense, it's the sophomore from Kennesaw, sophomore linebacker, Bryson Armstrong. We talked last night, Pro. Kennesaw State has come a long way in a short amount of time. It shows you being located in a position full of football players, rich with football players, can help you build something in a hurry.
Yeah, and their basketball team has not been a slouch either for the last. So they're emphasizing some athletics there. But, they're of course they're in again, we think about it being fully grown, but Kennesaw is still a burgeoning area in the Atlanta area. And so a lot of students now, including student athletes, are attracted to that area.
Yeah, I mean, listen, check out the traffic on I-75 going north past Kennesaw, coming out of Atlanta anytime, or going south. And they got this brand new highway now. I don't know the last time you were out there. It's just about to open up. It's supposed to be like an expressway to downtown Atlanta. You hop on it and you just zip into downtown Atlanta on it, and you keep building and stretching things out in that area. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Sports Talk. We have loved it from here at the South Carolina Coaches for Charity in Greenville. It's been a lot of fun, and look forward to being with the coaches and the players inside in just a few minutes. And tomorrow night, back in our studios in downtown Columbia. Look forward to being with you then. Thank you, Pro, and thank you, Brian. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow night right here on Sports Talk.